Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. That's that first song. I wasn't sure if I was at a rave or a training. It was a little different, but anyway, it's great to be here, and it's certainly a pleasure for me to introduce Sam to everybody. So just a little bit of history about Sam. Her and I met in 2016, I believe it was, maybe 2015. We were both speakers at an event actually a couple events in Australia, where she lives. And I was kind enough to get to go there and spend some time with the field. And what I recognized as I heard Sam talk is the area of social media and the digital space is her place of expertise. And what is great about it is that expertise is focused on the direct selling industry that we're a part of. So a lot of times when we have social media people potentially talk to us, they talk in a very traditional sense, but it's important to understand how it works in our business model. So to tell you a little bit about Sam, she was a distributor like all of us, except her story is a little bit unique. So Sam started when she was age 14. And by the age of 16, she was one of the top 10 consultants in Australia. So I don't know about any of you, but when I was 16, I certainly wasn't doing that. And that just speaks volumes about how driven she is as an entrepreneur. And honestly, it's, as she said, it's that passion for the industry that led her to where she is today. So what is Sam today? She is an award-winning speaker. She is a social media educator. She is a podcast creator, and she's a digital marketing specialist that works exclusively with direct selling companies. Now, what is different from her than what I would call industry trainers is Sam's focus is with direct selling companies, not just to the field. But in the context of that, she has helped and trained more than 185,000 direct selling distributors. So I am, and on top of that, just to give you some awards, 2021 Collaborator of the Year for Direct Selling Associate in Australia and Best on Social Media by the DSA America. So I'm bringing you the best I got, and certainly excited to hear from her myself. I've got my notepad out, my journal. If you don't, I recommend you get it out. And Sam, first of all, thank you for taking your time. I know this was a big ask, and I really appreciate you doing that. And I know everybody's excited to hear from you. The PM family always wants to learn, and this is an important thing for us to be able to really kind of take over North America and the PM world. So Sam, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gordon. And it is such an absolute pleasure and honor for me to be with you all today. This is kind of unique because, yes, I'm from Australia, and ordinarily I would be doing this from my studio in Tasmania, which is a little island at the bottom of Australia where we live. But funnily enough, we traveled to the US this week because we're actually speaking at a conference in Fort Worth on Friday. So we're currently doing our jet lag come down right now in Dallas. So I'm at a friend's studio right now, and I'm hoping all the tech is working. So can I just check that you can hear me okay? And we're good to go. Right. Now, okay. Can I also check, will everyone be able to use the chat tonight? I can't see any comments in there yet. And I don't know if that's because they're quiet or because it's not enabled.
It is enabled, and and we will, if there's questions at the end, we will certainly address them. But yeah, they usually fill out as it goes into the presentation. That's been our experience.
Awesome. So I would just love for you to use that chat tonight because I really want to make this interactive. Yes, I've got a presentation prepared, but I want to keep this relatively informal because I'm getting to know all of you for the first time as well. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background in a minute, but what I do want to make sure is that I'm serving you as best I can tonight. So to sort of touch on what Gordon just said, I started my first direct selling business at 14, and I then moved in after building that business up. At 16 years old, I was one of the top 10 consultants in Australia in the company that I was with. I had an income that had surpassed my parents, and I was always in the latest, back then I actually started the business because I desperately just wanted to fit in with my friends and have the latest pair of Doc Marten shoes and Levi jeans, because back then that was the thing. That's what you had to have to fit in. So I was able to fund myself into having those items of clothing, which was why I first started. But actually what happened was I learned some unbelievable skills that come from being in this industry, but I also was able to connect with so many amazing people. And I was able to learn as well what my own ability was, all of the gifting, I suppose, that I already have. And this industry, what I love so much about it is it changes lives every day. And I did move into a marketing career, which then, I guess, evolved into a digital marketing career in 2009. And I'll tell you a bit about that year in a minute, because it's a very important year for social media. But as I started to really specialize in this space, I realized I really wanted to go back to that industry that had impacted my life so heavily, because I could see it was also impacting many other people's lives as well. And I wanted to be a part of what this industry does. So what I would love right now, if you could just use the chat for me and just share with me, I want to ask this question. What are you currently using out of a personal, we'll talk about Facebook for just a little minute, but out of on Facebook, what are you currently using to grow your business? Are you using a personal profile, a group, a business page, or a combination of those things? So if you could tell me that, I'd really love to know the answer there. Now I'm just going to share screen here, and I'm hoping that this works. So let's just make sure we've got our text straight. Are you guys all good? Can you see that there?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. And I'm just going to pull my chat back up so I can see all of you, because that's really important for me. So great. I can see some answers coming in here. So personal profiles, profiles and groups, combination. Joanna, you got your personal profile. Okay, great. And then we've got Freya, who's got a business page and group. All right. So there's quite a combination going on here. So I want to just start by talking to you about 4 fears. So Gordon did mention I've worked with a lot of direct sellers over the years. Yes, we specialize in this industry. I don't work with any other business type. We get approached on a weekly basis, often by the real estate industry. And my answer is no, I only work with direct sellers. And the reason is the way that we do social media is so different to any other industry. We are a relationship building business. And at the end of the day, social media is a powerful tool to help us build those all important relationships, but it's not everything. We need to use it as a powerful vehicle and a tool. But at the end of the day, what we really want is one-to-one relationships to grow our businesses, right? So I want to talk to you today a little bit about, first of all, what are some of the things that get in our way? What are some of the things that stop us being successful on social media, but also what are some of the best practices? And I noticed quite a few of you here said you're currently using a personal profile, which is very interesting because this is really common, but it also can be exactly what might be getting in your way of being successful. And I'll explain why a little bit later on. So let's start by talking about 4 fears that hold us back. Now, over the last couple of years alone, Greg and I have worked with and trained over 167,000 distributors in this industry. And over that time, we've seen a pattern that has consisted throughout all of those people, those that are not successful on social media and those that in some cases are not successful in their business at all. Now, these are not unusual, okay? So if you're experiencing any of these, what I want you to do is tell me in the chat, just go, yep, that's me, if any of these sound familiar. And it might be all 4 of them for you. But the first step is recognizing that these things are going on. And then I'm going to talk to you about how we can go around them, over them, through them, and help you to get what you want. Because the difference between someone who earns, a 6-figure income and a 3-figure income is simply that they have overcome these issues. So let's go in and have a little bit of a look. The first of these is this. So let me know in the chat if this has been you. First of all, is a fear of pestering family and friends. It's that worry that, hey, if I go into the business, maybe this has held you back from stepping into the business at all, or perhaps taking it seriously for a period of time. But it may also have been something that has stopped you using social media effectively because you worry that you don't know anyone outside of your family and friends. It may simply be that, hey, I want to reach a new network of people, but right now I'm struggling with finding new people. And how do I find new people? All right, the next one is this, and that is I feel like Facebook or social media is a waste of my time. Like I'm putting things out there and it's not working. So you might be implementing things that you've learned or doing things that you've been told to try, but for whatever reason, it's just not getting you the results right now. So wasting time and getting no results, because let's face it, your time is one of your most precious resources. You can't get that back. The next one that I know gets in the way for a lot of people on social media is the fear of failure and comparison. What if I get it wrong? And when we look at other people that seemingly have it all together and are doing amazing things on social media, we often look at them and think, well, I have to be more like that and less like me if I'm going to be successful at this. And so we end up doing one of two things. We either mimic and try and copy what other people do, which means we're not being authentic, or we don't do anything at all. And that in itself can be really dangerous. And the last one is this, and that is overwhelm. Let me know in the chat if you've ever found this whole world of social media to be just a little bit overwhelming, meaning that, you know, it's constantly changing. For a lot of you, like me, you didn't grow up with social media. And not like my kids. I've got 4 beautiful kids, and I can tell you, those guys grew up with an iPad at their fingertips. And this is just part of their education now. But growing up for many of us, if you're over the age of, say, 30, it was not a part of your schooling and education. And so it can seem really overwhelming. And you often feel like you've been left behind, and maybe that you just, who's used the words, I'm not tech savvy. By the way, if you've ever used those words, I don't want you to use those words again, because I want to remind you of something here. All of you have probably got a smartphone at your fingertips if you didn't use it to tune into this today. And you probably are 100% self-taught when it comes to using that technology. Do you know that your smartphone is one of the world's smartest computers, right? So you are already using amazing technology, and you didn't grow up with that. You weren't taught that in school. So you can do this. It's just a matter of understanding how to do it in a way that is productive and gets you results. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot that we can do on social media that's not actually going to help our business. Now, I want to remind you of one very important thing here, and it's this. People buy from those that they like, know, and trust. Now, I know that this is probably not new information for all of you, but I want to ask you this question, because here's the thing. Selling and directly promoting and broadcasting doesn't work in person before we've earned the right to do it, and it doesn't work online either. Can anyone tell me in the chat what it is about your business that people are actually buying? Can you tell me what it is about your business that makes you unique? Is it the company? Is it the products? Is it the history? Is it the culture? Let me know in the chat. I want to see if anyone can tell me what it is about your business that sets it apart, that makes it unique and something special. Can anyone tell me in the chat? Kind of want to see if we can get the right. Okay, product, says Jonathan. Both, says Pari. Product, all of the above. Okay, do you know what the thing is that makes your business unique? It is none of those things. Sandy, you got it. It's you. You are what people are buying. People aren't buying what you tell them to buy. They're buying what you do. They're buying what you're passionate about. And the thing is that when you share your journey and you share your experience and you share your passion, you build trust, and people buy from you because they want what you have, not because of what you tell them they should have. And this is the key to social media. The key is sharing, not selling. It's building relationships. It's relating. And we do that through a number of different tools. I'll share a couple of them tonight, but I just want to remind you of this and just ask you this question, and this is just something to ponder. But how much time do you spend selling yourself on social media? Because a lot of us focus on the product and the business. And while that is absolutely what we're wanting to grow, we want to sell product, we want to recruit people, absolutely. But when we lead with that, I like to use an analogy. I talk a little bit about dating when I'm talking about this, because it's very much like building a relationship. If you were wanting to, and you know, growing our business is about building and establishing key relationships, right? We want people that rave about us, that share the business and the products with their family and friends as well. But we do that through building relationships. Now, if you were building a relationship with a future partner in life, you would go on dates and get to know them first. You wouldn't go straight from meeting them to marriage, because it wouldn't be appropriate. But why then do we show up on social media, and before we've dated them and got to know them and built that relationship, why do we jump straight to the sell? Why do we jump straight to the opportunity? when in actual fact, what we should be doing is creating commonality and building that all-important relationship first. And it may seem slower, but in the long run, it's actually much, much faster. Now, I also want to remind you of this one thing, because as we talk about social media, I don't want to create this idea that we have to get it perfect, because what happens when I do that is I create something that's not realistic. At the end of the day, you need to be present over perfect. Now, about 5 years ago, I was speaking at a conference in the Gold Coast in Australia for a company that I've done a lot of work with. And as I was speaking at that event, there was a beautiful leader in the audience called Chrissy. Now, Chrissy was a top leader. She'd been with the company for over 20 years, and she had an amazing income and a huge team underneath her. Chrissy really wanted to learn more about social media. So off the back of that event, she signed up to do some training along with a number of other people. And Chrissy absorbed as much knowledge as she could. She learned everything that I could teach her about social media. So I was really surprised when 3 years ago, I got a call from Chrissy. Now, I don't know about you, but in Australia, we had this lockdown thing that happened 3 years ago. And when this happened, Chrissy went into a panic. She rings me and she goes, Sam, I've got a real problem. The thing is that I've grown a business person to person. She said, and we're in a situation now where I haven't put my business online. See, Chrissy hadn't implemented anything that she'd learned. And she said, I recognize that if I don't get my business online quickly, I'm going to lose it. And she said, what's worse is I feel responsible for those in my team that are watching me and taking a lead from me right now. And so she said, what do I do? And I asked her the question, why, Chrissy, have you not implemented what you've learned? You know the theory of everything you need to do. Why aren't you doing it? And she said, because I haven't got it right yet. And the problem with that was that because she hadn't got it right, she was holding back. And the only person that was suffering from that, well, it was her. It was also her team. So I had a bit of a coaching call with her. And the next day I got her to do her first ever Facebook Live. And was it perfect? No. Her camera was sideways. It was tipped on the wrong side. One of her kids came running in behind her with their underwear on partway through. She lost her words. She was really uncomfortable, but she got through it. Now, the next day she rings me and she said, look, that wasn't the best. She said, but I actually, number one, feel a lot better about doing it again because I can only learn from what went wrong. But she said 2 really interesting things happened. She said, first of all, I got more people reaching out to me that hadn't connected with me before off that one video because suddenly they felt like they related to me. She said, I had so many inquiries come from that. She said, if I'd known that, I would have done this a long time ago. And she said the other thing that happened was 3 of her other team members saw her doing a live and decided to go and do their own live. So suddenly she created some momentum. My point being is that if you wait for perfect, you'll be waiting forever. Social media is constantly changing, and the best possible thing that you can be doing to get this right is to get out there and have a go. Now, I want to talk to you now a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes, because one of the greatest challenges that we have is that we don't have a good understanding for what's actually getting in our way as far as the platforms themselves. Now, have you ever wondered why when you put a post out there and you do everything you're told to do, it just doesn't get the results you want? In fact, sometimes you feel like you can literally hear crickets chirping when you put your post out there and you wonder what's going on. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about social media and the behind the scenes right now, because I want you to have some knowledge that's going to help you make good decisions. What I don't want to happen is for you to blindly follow and trust absolutely anything that you're taught when it comes to social media, especially if you're taught things that don't work for our industry. This is why we teach in this space, because our industry is very unique and very different. So let's have a little bit of a look. Let me know in the chat, who's heard of, but doesn't really understand, what is the algorithm? I know lots of you have probably heard this word thrown around and you're like, I know it's a thing, I know it's important, but I'm not so sure that I know what it means. Now, I'm going to explain this to you in really simple terms right now, because it is important that we understand what this is, but we don't have to, get all technical about it, okay? So I'll give you a quick description of it. I said to you earlier that 2009 was a really big year for social media. Well, to explain that a little bit more, in 2009, Facebook realized it was becoming a very busy environment. Basically, businesses had cottoned onto the fact that they had a captive audience on this platform, and they were actively promoting their products, services, and business opportunities. And the platform became a really spammy environment. Facebook was losing its users in droves. And in order to keep its platform going, it knew that it was going to have to adapt and become smarter. And it definitely didn't want to go off into the MySpace zone. So it implemented two things. The first thing it did was it brought into play business pages, which segmented the content. But the other thing that it did was it brought into play the algorithm, which is a program that operates in the background of Facebook. And for that matter, all social media platforms have their own algorithm. But the sole job of this program is to learn everything there is to learn about you and me. Its job is to learn things like what we do for a living, who we're friends with, what sort of conversations we're having with those friends, what sort of car we drive, what our family life looks like, how many kids we have, how old they are, even things like our household income. It's using all of this information and it's putting it all together to work out exactly what to deliver you that's going to keep you on the platform for longer and more frequently. So to put it into really super simple terms, your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any social media platform feed is customized to you like a fingerprint. There are no two the same, and it was created for you and you alone. So why do I bring this up? Well, the main reason this matters so much is because for you, every single post you put out there is getting filtered by this algorithm, which is deciding who to show it to. Now, first of all, if we don't know who our audience is, it's going to be very hard when that algorithm does know who they are to give it content that it's going to show them. So the first thing we need to get to know is what do they want? What do they value? But the second thing is we need to know what the algorithm itself is looking for. And there's a few keys here that I'll go through with you today. I want to quickly just talk to you though about why most people fail at Facebook or social media in general. And the first, I'm just going to move my chat over here because hang on, I'm on the too many screens. Okay, so the first reason that people fail is because tell me in the chat if you've ever done this, they get distracted by the pretty, which means they're focusing all of this time on making a post look really good. They totally lose sight of the strategy of the post. Yeah, so I can see some yeses coming in here right now. So here's the thing. This is a really common downfall because we want it to look good, right? But the problem with putting focus in making things look good is looking good isn't relatable. You heard what I said about Chrissy. Her video was imperfect, and that in itself made it more relatable, made it more real, and helped people to connect with her. So the first thing we've got to be careful of is not focusing too much on making everything look perfect. If you've spent more than, say, 15 minutes on creating a post, I encourage you to get up, walk away, do something else, and come back a little later, because it shouldn't take you any more time than that. Why? Because it doesn't take you effort to be yourself. Just think to yourself, if you went to a cafe and you had a coffee with your ideal customer and you were chatting away with them, would you have to stop after every sentence and think to yourself, okay, how will I word this next sentence perfectly to get my point across? You wouldn't do that. So why do we do it on social media? At the end of the day, if you are being authentically yourself, it should be really easy to use language you would use, images that you relate to and your audience relate to. In fact, I highly recommend that no matter what, you maximize using your own photographs, writing your own captions. Yes, you can share stuff. Yes, you might have an amazing gallery that's been provided to you by PM International. But at the end of the day, what you need to be doing is inserting your personality as much as you can. And Facebook, well, actually, Adam Mosseri from Instagram started this a year ago and Facebook backed it up. He said that we will reward people who create unique content, meaning when people put a post up that isn't shared, it's not duplicated, it's not being copied and pasted. When they create their own content, we'll reward them for doing it. Why? Because Meta, social media in general, but Meta want people to connect and build relationships. They want good quality content that's relatable, real, human. And so the way that we do that is by creating our own posts. The other thing too is you want to make sure that the numbers that you're chasing are actually going to be fruitful for your business. The thing is that chasing likes can be highly addictive, but it's actually not a good way to grow your business. Engagement is what tells us what people are actually interacting with. But I just want to throw something out there right now. I have seen a huge shift in the last 12 months with the way people are using social media. Think about it this way. How often do you say to yourself something like, I'm just going to have a look at one reel, or I'm going to go look at one post, and then an hour later you pull yourself out of the rabbit hole that you crawled into? Hey, who's done that? Be honest with me in the chat. Let me know if you've done that and you thought, I'm just going to look at one reel. I'll just look at one post. I'll just check out this video. And the next thing you know, you find yourself going, oh my goodness, how much time did I just waste? Right. Well, first of all, that's absolutely the algorithm at play here. But I caught myself doing this last week. Now, I try to avoid this at all costs because it is a big time waster. But this was really interesting because I had a little realization moment where I had done that. I'll look at one reel situation, and an hour later, I thought, oh my goodness, I reckon I've watched about 20, maybe 30 reels over the last hour. And I sort of pulled myself out of that hole, but I realized something. In that time, without even knowing I was doing it, I hadn't commented on, reacted to, or interacted with a single post. But did that mean that I hadn't paid attention to any of them? Did it mean that none of them had an impact and none of them were memorable? No, it's the way we use social media now. How often do you scroll through Facebook or Instagram or even TikTok and you don't actually comment on or interact with anything, but you've paid attention to quite a lot of stuff? So we've got to keep this in mind. Just because people aren't engaging with us doesn't mean they're not paying attention. And so if you're sitting there right now going, oh, well, I've been doing all the things I'm meant to be doing. I've been putting posts out there. No one's engaging with me. No one's commenting on my stuff. So I'm not going to bother anymore. Just hold up a little minute. One of the keys to being successful on social media isn't the direct engagement. It's being in their feed and reminding them that you're there. You might have heard the term seeding before. And if you speak to any marketer, they'll tell you that the most powerful part of marketing is not the part that gets them to take the action. It's the part that just gently drops the seed throughout the process of building that relationship, so that when it comes time for the person to make the buying decision, they think of you first. And so you want to be seeding along the way, which means you want to be showing up in their feed as much as you possibly can. The next reason that people fail probably will come as no surprise to you, but this is one of the worst things you can do on social media for a number of reasons, and that is selling. When you actively sell, you essentially, most of the time, are jumping straight from, hi, how are you, to will you marry me, which means we skip the dating process. Now, does this mean you can't sell on social media? No. But the key here is selling without selling. It's selling by creating curiosity and intrigue, by knowing what they want and then almost giving it to them. It makes so much more sense to have someone so curious about what you do or what you have that they reach out to say, can you just tell me a little bit more, please? I'll give you an example of this. I don't work with any direct selling company as a distributor anymore. I only work in the capacity of, like we are today, teaching you social media. But I use products from lots of direct selling companies. I love this industry and the quality of the products that come out of it. And there's a particular company I was doing some work with a little while back who creates a lipstick that stays on. And I was speaking at one of their conferences in the morning at 9 a.m. And I thought they'd sent me this bright red lipstick. And I thought, well, I'd better wear it to their event, right? So I put the lipstick on. Later on in the day, so this was 9 a.m. in the morning, at 5 p.m., I went to go for a run with my stepdad. And I get in my car, I've got my running gear on, and I look in the rearview mirror and I see this bright red lipstick has not budged. I'm still wearing it as though it's freshly applied. And so I took a photo and I put it on social media. I just said, I can't believe it. I put this on nearly 8 hours ago and it's still going. And now I'm going for a run. Who freshly applies bright red lipstick right before going for a run? And I just did the little shrug emoji and said, well, at least I'll look good doing it. And that's where I left it, said no more. Now, I don't sell these products, but I got over 30, by the time I finished my run, I had over 35 comments from people asking, what is that? Where do I get it? What's the color? How did it not come off? Like, I had more questions from people than I knew what to do with. Now, of course, I sent them off to distributors because I wasn't going to do anything with them. But the point remains, when you know what they want and you almost give it to them, when you share what you do and your journey and you create curiosity and intrigue, you are so much more likely to not only grow your business, but have people sitting back wondering, what are you going to do next? But when you directly come out and you sell, it's like you give them everything they need. They've got no reason anymore to reach out to you and ask any questions. The next reason that people fail is actually one that I think a lot of people think is the right thing to do, and it's very much so the wrong thing, and here's why. Overposting and oversharing. The thing is, when you overpost, vast majority of people are posting for the sake of it, and all strategy goes out the window. So how many posts should you be doing a week? Well, the I guess perfect scenario would be one good quality post every day on Facebook and Instagram. Doesn't matter which platform you're using. Now, if you're doing any more than that, typically we find, unless you're getting great results, and if you are getting great results, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're not, hone it back and just get strategic about what you're putting out there. Are you providing value first and foremost? Are you getting to know your audience? Are you socializing? Remember, this is social media. We can't leave the social element out. Are you engaging with them and interacting with them? Are you creating curiosity and intrigue? Are you selling without selling? Are you sharing your story and your journey? So when you get strategic and you put a good quality post up every day, you're actually going to do a lot better than if you put loads of posts out there that aren't working for you, and you will be wasting your time doing that too. If, however, you do one good quality post a day and then you come up with another idea, a good thing to do is use your stories for that. Stories are typically great for those things that happen throughout your day that share sort of the behind the scenes and help people relate directly with you. But the posts you put on your main feed on Facebook or Instagram are your strategic content. So overposting and oversharing. And the very last fail is this one here. If I can get it to come up, they don't understand their customers. Now, remember, that algorithm knows everything about you and your customer. So it goes without saying, it's in your best interest to know as much as you can about them. The really great news is you can use social media to learn about them. I'm going to tell you a really quick little trick. Engagement posts, question posts are a fantastic way to get to know your audience and to start healthy conversation. Create posts that so Greg and I went out for dinner a few weeks ago, and we were sitting at dinner, and I said to him, who should I get on the podcast next? Like, I need some new guests. Who should I pull on the podcast? And he goes, what would Sam say if one of her clients asked her that question? I said she would tell them to put an engagement post up on Facebook asking, what podcast guest should I get on the podcast next? And so I did exactly that. If I could interview anybody out there, anybody in the world, no matter how famous they were or who they were or what they did, who would you want me to get onto the podcast? And I had hundreds of responses. But what it taught me was, first of all, what are the common denominators that my audience are telling me? They wanted motivation, inspiration. They wanted to feel empowered. They wanted to hear real stories from other business owners. But the other thing was, it allowed me to start real conversation with them too, and show my customers, my fans, my followers that they weren't just a number. And that's really important for you too. I'm going to tell you one really important thing here. If you want to get good results on social media, don't post and ghost. I see people doing this a lot. They get so busy at putting their content out there that they forget this is actually about building a relationship. The post itself is just a tool that we use to get the relationship going. When someone comments, even if it's a really simple comment that doesn't seem to have any conversation opportunity there, use it as a chance to, number one, show them that they matter and they're not just a number. Respond anyway. And every opportunity you get, ask another question. So when somebody responds to my post where I asked, what podcast guest should I get? And someone says, Brené Brown, I should ask another question like, have you read any of her books? What's your favorite? Or what do you love about Brené Brown? Or have you heard Tony Robbins? What do you think of him? Start another conversation, because what you get is this backwards and forwards underneath the post. And what happens when you do that is, number one, that person knows that they matter. Number two, you're building the relationship. Number three, you're getting to know them. And number four, that algorithm is seeing that this post is actually a popular post, and it starts pushing it out to more and more and more people, and it has a snowball effect. So remember to interact. Now, how are we going for time here? Just having a look. All right, I'm going to quickly whiz through. I know some of you wanted to know a few little tips about branding yourself. So I'm going to give you a couple of little pointers here. And then I think what we might do is open up to some questions. I could keep talking all night. I have got so much stuff I could talk to you guys about, but we don't have all night, so don't worry. The Australian won't do that to you. Although it is for me right now around about lunchtime. So technically speaking, I could keep going all night, but I don't think you'd appreciate it. So let's just really quickly talking about branding yourself on social media. Now, I want to be really clear about something. You need to show up as you. If there is anything you take from this tonight, it should be this. You are the one thing that makes your business unique. You're what people are buying. So at the end of the day, you don't need to try and be more like somebody else. You need to try and be more like you. And that in itself can be a challenge, because we're so used to thinking we need to be more like that influencer or more like that person who's nailed social media. But the bottom line is that in actual fact, the key is not being tech savvy. It's not being able to use all of the technology and the apps and the tools. It's simply being able to be yourself online. And that can be go a little bit against the grain and be a little bit hard to do. So just remember this, you are the brand. Yes, you're selling PM International. Yes, you're selling the amazing products and the business opportunity. But first, before that happens, you have to sell yourself. Because people buy from people they like, know, and trust. And you have to establish that trust at the very beginning. So first step here is get clear about who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And if you can summarize that in just one or two sentences, who you are, what you do, and why you do it, and get really clear about how you're here to serve people. What are you here to achieve? Why are you passionate about your business? Ask yourself the question, why did you first start in this business? Maybe you can tell me in the chat. I'd love to hear from you guys right now. Tell me, why are you in the business that you're in? Are you in it because you're really passionate about what the products do? Are you in it because you love seeing people take their career and their business opportunity and their work-life balance into their own hands, or their financial freedom? Do you love having that impact? Why are you in the business that you're in? I'm looking at the chat. I'd love to hear from you. If you know the answer to this question, tell me, because the thing is that we often think that that doesn't matter, but it's the key to what you do. It's why people are connecting with you. And when you get really clear about why you do what you do, suddenly it opens up a magical new doorway that helps you connect with more of the right people. And I want to remind you of something really important here. You are not here to serve everybody. When you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And that can be a really dangerous place to be. At the end of the day, you have a very special customer type that is out there waiting for you. We like to call it our tribe. You might have heard it spoken about as an avatar or an ideal customer or a dream customer. But at the end of the day, you have a particular group of people that you are put here to serve. And when you are serving them unashamedly and you understand who they are and you get to know them, I had a situation a few years back where I won't go into the full story. It was a bit of a fun story, but I don't have the time for it right now. But essentially, I had a room of 50 people I was training, and 49 of those people were loving everything that I was teaching them. They were getting a lot out of it. It was really serving them. But one person sitting in the very back of that room made one negative comment about what I was teaching about Facebook Lives. Essentially, she didn't believe that Facebook Lives were an important part of growing a business. And she made a really derogatory comment about it. And I sat there and I went, okay, I have to listen to what she's saying. And I took on board the negativity from this particular person, because we've all got a negative bias, right? We hear the negative things well before we pay attention to the positive things. And I personally, for 3 months, this was about 8 years ago, I personally stopped doing lives because she essentially said to me, don't you think that people get sick of seeing your face? And I was like, maybe I'll stop doing it. And so I stopped. And my coach, my business coach at the time, who actually was the person that introduced Gordon and I, said to me about 3 months later, I was like, my business opportunities have stopped coming through. I'm not getting any inquiries. My clients are dropping off. What's going on? And she said to me, what on earth are you doing? She goes, why aren't you showing up on Facebook Lives anymore? And I said, because of the comment this one person made. And she went, oh my gosh, Sam, is this person your ideal customer? And I stopped for a minute and I was like, oh my gosh. She was a woman who was retired for a start. She just, was interested in learning a bit about social media. She was sitting in the back of the room. She wasn't in the age group of my target demographic. And there were so many reasons if this was not a person for me to listen to. And I sat back and went, why on earth did I let one person dictate the way I show up for everybody else? I should have been listening to the people who actually wanted to learn from me, because those are my target customers. It's very, very easy to focus on the wrong people when you're trying to please everybody. And what happens? The ones that you want to listen to stop paying attention because they don't feel like they matter and they know that you're not speaking directly to them. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm seeing all these comments coming in. This is awesome. I'm just going to stop screen sharing here for a little moment. And I'm going to really encourage you guys, if you've got anything that you want to ask me in the chat, throw any questions at me. I'm really happy to answer a couple of questions right now. So I'm just having a look here. Joanna, you love what the products did for you. Okay. And that's really awesome. So those are the stories that we want to share compliantly, of course. Sandy, it helped you so much and you want to share it with others. And this is the thing, when we get really clear that I want someone else to have the experience I had, we stop selling the product or the business and we start sharing the experience. And that's what people want to hear. Think about it. How often do you buy something because someone tells you about the experience they had versus because they told you what you should do? I'm going to use a really quick, have I got a second to show you a quick example? Okay, so I'm going to show you something. I don't really have a whole lot of tools here. I've normally got like a tripod and stuff on my desk. So I'm just going to make some stuff up. All right, just pretend for a little minute. So look, everybody, I'm going to just really quickly tell you about a product that you absolutely need to have in your life. I want to tell you about this ring light. Just pretend this is a ring light. I'm going to tell you about this ring light, which you need. The thing is, this will help you get better photos with your phone. Now, these ring lights will clip onto your phone. They're really super easy to use. And anybody who's anyone that wants to do social media well needs to have one of these. Now, these are normally $29.95, but they're on sale right now for $25.50. I'm going to put the link in the chat so you can all buy your own ring light. But if you want to get good quality photos with your phone, you need to have one of these. Okay. That's number one. I want you to tell me in the chat which of these two products you are most likely to want to know more about. Okay, here's the second example. Okay, so I really love being able to get good quality video and photos with my phone, but I've struggled for years with being able to keep my phone stable until I found this amazing tripod. Now, this tripod is awesome. My phone clips into it, and I keep one in my car, on my desk, in the office, and in my handbag because it shrinks down to this little tiny portable device. The really great thing I love about it, the bit I love the most, is it's got a little Bluetooth shutter on it. So I'm actually able to take photos. So, you know, when you see people have taken a selfie, but it doesn't look like a selfie because it's you know, perfectly positioned and you know, there's gap between them and the camera. You can't see the arm holding it. Well, that's how they do it. And I finally know how to do it myself. I love these tripods. I carry one everywhere I go. Best thing ever. And now my phone is stable every time I do a live, and I'm getting better photographs. Now, let me ask you this question. Of those two examples, which are you most likely to want to know more about? And can you tell me, what did I do differently the second time that I didn't do the first time? Or what did I, sorry, other way around. What did I not do the second time that I did do the first time that made that more interesting for you? Yeah, so you guys will want the tripod right now. I wish I'd had it in my hands because that would have been so much easier. I usually do. But in all seriousness, it was my experience. I didn't tell you what you needed, right? I didn't say, here's what you need. I said, here's my experience. But the one key thing I did was I knew what you wanted and I almost gave it to you. I didn't give the farm away, meaning I didn't tell you where you could buy it or how much it was or why you needed it. I told you why I needed it. And then I left it for you to ask me those questions, because now I get to build a relationship with you. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'm going to hand over now back to you, Gordon. I'm going to let you, if anyone wants to ask a question, I'm really open for that. But I'm going to hand back to you right now, Gordon. It's been an absolute pleasure joining you all tonight. Thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate your patience as well, because obviously this isn't my normal environment here, but we got through it and we had no technical problems. So I'm very happy about that.
So Sam, first of all, great job and thank you. I have no doubt I'm going to have a lot of people reaching out asking for more of this. This is an area that I know there's so many people that want to learn, and an area that I've certainly spent a lot of time in my career, like you, because got to know it. It's kind of where the world is today. But I would say there were a couple things that really stuck out to me that really kind of, I think, are key takeaways that anybody should pay attention to. One is, at the end of the day, this is just a tool to build relationships. And as I always talk about, our business is about engaged critical mass. It's about building loyal, engaged relationships, whether with customers or with team. And to do that, and this was the first thing I wrote down, Sam, when I heard you talk, connection before transaction. So one of the things that I learned in social media that was so useful is don't come out of the gate selling. Connection is about 3 words: trust, care, and help. If people know they can trust you, you care, and that you have some way of helping them, then the sales and the transactional part becomes easy. The importance of authenticity. I think that is so true. I see so many people trying to be something that they think they want to be, but it's not true to them. And I think in the marketplace today, especially with as little trust as exists in the world, people can really spot if you're not being authentic. Your story reminded me that the power of curiosity. And I remember years ago writing an article. I used to read a lot on neuroscience. It was called The Neuroscience of Narratives. And the one thing that I remember most about that article, it says the brain is programmed through stories, and curiosity is what the brain pays attention to. So when you understand that all social media is just a communication platform, content matters. And if you know how to do content to create curiosity and to really build connection, then amazing things can happen. And then I love the idea about question post, and I actually haven't done a lot of that, so that's something I'm willing to try. But if anybody else has any more questions, please speak up.
Yeah, I'll just really quickly touch on that question post thing too, just while we wait to see if anyone does have a question, ironically. The thing to keep in mind about question posts is that they do 3 things. They help you learn about your audience. They also, okay, so yes, thank you, Rick. You bring up a good point. I need to come back to that. They also help you start conversation, and they increase engagement on your page, profile, group, whatever it is, so that it pushes it out further. But questions could be as simple as, what's your opinion? People love to give their opinion, by the way. You know, give them things like this or that, but make sure that the questions that you ask are carefully formulated so that they're easy to answer. So to give you an example of that, if you were to ask, let's say it's Mother's Day, and you ask the question, you know, tell me what you most love about your mum. Okay, well, that for a lot of people is going to be an essay, guys, and they're not likely to respond to that. But if you said the same question in a different way, which might be, tell me one word that describes your mum, then suddenly people can answer it on the fly. And you've got to remember, you've got 3 seconds to grab people's attention on Facebook. A fun fact for you, they believe, and I don't know if this is actually still true because I've heard conflicting information about this, but they believe that a goldfish has got a memory of 8 seconds. But humans have got the attention span of 3 seconds on social media. How's that for a little bit of trivia for you? We have got less attention span than a goldfish now. So to come to your question, Rick, which is a very important question, personal profiles, business pages, groups. So here's the thing that we need to remember. Personal profiles are your current existing family and friends. They're your existing networks. Groups are your community. These are what we use for nurturing. But a business page is kind of like a website because it is publicly viewable. Your personal profile and your group is not publicly accessible unless you've opened it up that way. But generally speaking, they're not publicly viewable. A business page is where you generate new leads. You get new potential people in. You warm people up, you seed people, you create new opportunities. So let's just say if Otis, for example, was my customer and he told Gordon about my business and Gordon thought, I'm going to just check Sam out first. If I've got a business page, Gordon can go see who I am and get a feel for me and watch some of my posts first with no barrier. But if I don't have a business page, Gordon now has to either friend request me or join my group before he knows anything about me. And the likelihood is that Gordon, who doesn't yet have a relationship with me, is not going to feel comfortable doing that yet, especially, I'm just going to put it out there, in the industry that we're in, where we really have to break down some of those preconceived ideas that direct sellers might hound and hassle if we come into contact. So the best thing to use a business page for is to generate leads, and there are lots of amazing things you could do. If I had another hour with you, I could give you a whole lot of really cool ways to do that on business pages. But the bottom line is a business page is your lead generating machine. And then from there, your personal profile and your group is your nurture sequence. It's where you build the relationship and you date them and take them to a place where it's appropriate to, marry them or get engaged down the track. Completely hypothetical situation here. We're not really, we're not going to date our customers, but you get what I'm saying. We want to build the relationship with them. So hopefully that answers that question. So Rick, my answer is you need all 3 of them, but they all do very different things. So Freya, finding balance between personal content and business and product content, they kind of come into play a little bit. The thing is, this depends on where you're doing it. If you're doing it on a business page, you definitely need a really good combination. And one of the things that we like to talk about is creating your own recipe, which, if you were creating a recipe, my husband, Greg, is gluten-free and dairy-free, right? So I'm constantly creating new recipes because I have to adapt everything for him. So let's say I'm creating him a gluten-free, dairy-free brownie. I'm going to put different ingredients in at different times using different methods in different amounts. And then I'm going to get him, my ideal customer, to try it. And then I'm going to see what he thinks. And then I'm going to adapt it. I'm going to change maybe the amount of sugar I use or the type of sugar I use. I'm going to change the ingredients at different times. And your social media content is very similar. You want to be constantly watching how your audience are interacting with you, paying attention to that, but you want to adjust those ingredients all of the time to make them work for you in your business. Different amounts, different times, different methods. So, there's a whole strategy here that we could take you through. Again, we don't have time, but I just want to encourage you to think about different pieces of content you can play with that help you relate to your audience. But I highly recommend having a business page in order to do that in a way that's professional, but also gets rid of that barrier, so that you can then pull them into your personal profile and group and have that appropriate conversation with them when it's the right time. What should be discussed on a live? How long should it be? And do you sell at any point? Oh, that's a very open-ended question there. Lives, you could do so many different things on lives. Yes, you could sell, but always ask yourself this one key question. Am I providing value first? Am I making it about my audience? Am I providing them value? If you're going in first and foremost with yourself in mind, and you're thinking about, what am I going to get out of this? Then you need to like pull a pin on it and go away and think, okay, how do I provide value first? Because number one, that's how your audience is going to relate to you and trust you and build that relationship with you. But number two, you're more likely to sell when you're actually not selling. Remember to share. So if I were to jump in and I were to share with you, oh my gosh, here's a recipe I've just come up with, or here's a new experience I've just had, or here's how I take this product, or here's how I do that, that's going to sell far greater than you showing up and going, okay, here's my favorite product. Here are all the things you need to know about it. Here's the price. Here's the link. Yes, you could do that, but ask yourself the question, how do you respond when someone does that to you? It doesn't mean you can't sell. You absolutely can, but ask yourself the question, how do you buy from people? One of the best possible things you could do to learn this stuff is actually sit down maybe 10 minutes every 2 days and scroll through your Facebook and your Instagram and pay attention to the posts that get your attention. Screenshot them. And then after you've done your 10, 15 minutes, go back and have a look at what it was about those posts that got your attention. And the next time you want to buy something on Facebook or Instagram, ask yourself what made you want to buy it. What was it about that post or about that live? Pay attention, because it's highly likely that the things that get your attention are also going to get the attention of your ideal customer as well. Cool. All right. Link for products in profile, or better not to provide links without prior communication? That's a good question, Freya. And again, that kind of, yes, you can provide links from time to time. I will just say this, Facebook wants to keep people on Facebook. So the more you link people away from Facebook and you're sending them to another platform, the less likely it is that Facebook's going to show those posts to as many people. So whilst it's okay to do that from time to time, I err on the side of, wouldn't it be better for someone to reach out and say, hey, tell me more about that lip color? I know you don't sell lip color, but I'm using the example that I used earlier. Tell me more about it. What is that? Where do I get that from? Then you can have that conversation with them one-on-one. And how much curiosity does it create when people see that person's comment asking you more, and you simply respond with, I've sent you a private message. And now they're going, oh, well, I want to know too. And so they're going to comment on your post. But if you tell them everything they need to know, they've got nothing left to reach out to you about. Cool. All right. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Gordon, because again, I feel I could go down a lot of rabbit holes here and start a whole nother training. And you're on mute.
You'd think I've done enough Zooms that I would realize there's a mute button, but apparently I'm a slow learner. So anyway, I thought it was a great training. I'm going to talk to the team, and I think there's probably a lot more we can learn and try to figure something out in that context. This was sort of high level, but imagine you get into the details and actually get into the execution of all this stuff and how to do it, and the difference it would make in all of our businesses. So excited to have that conversation afterwards. Especially thank you for taking your time. I know you're traveling. I know you have so many clients and so much going on. Really, really appreciate that. I know everybody got value from this, and that ultimately is probably what matters to you the most, like it does me. We're in the game to make a difference in people's lives. So I appreciate that. And one last thing, I want to remind everybody, since I've been here, I've heard so much about the compensation plan and the marketing plan and understanding this and the selling system. Next week's call is Josue and I covering those items. So if you really want to understand how the business model works within the compensation plan, I encourage you to tune in. And on that note, let's all give Sam a big thank you. And we will see you at the Product Academy. Don't forget this Saturday. All right. Good night,
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.